Hello. Hello, this is the My Artifact episode number 3685. Today's date is November 5, 2025. It's been almost like a morning at 8:28 a.m. Alright, so should we jump into the question? Alright, yeah. Okay, the question is, what if self-doubt fuel creativity? Okay. First of all, what exactly is this question and why am I asking this question to myself? This is what if question. Why am I asking this question to myself? What if question is always a really interested way to give the answer. It kind of like force you to think about that reality, create that reality inside of your mind. When you create that reality, it really required a knowledge. Okay, yeah. So, disclaimer, the information that I'm trying to tell you is not exactly right or is not exactly wrong either. It is just my opinion. Okay, yeah. What if question is something that key it's complete messy. Okay, yeah. You don't know nothing really about anything at all, but you are try to make the connection between what would be that particular world, and somehow it felt really good. I don't know how do I supposed to explain this thing, but it kind of like me create some sort of branches inside of me regarding about the knowledge that I don't know how but it felt good. Okay, and that's it. That's why I'm kind of like asking this question to myself. Okay, yeah. Now let's jump back to the question. Okay, yeah. I already gave a disclaimer. Yeah, disclaimer. All right, yeah. So the question is, what if self-doubt fuel creativity? Okay, yeah. Now, what is exactly self-doubt? What is exactly creativity? What exactly is this question? If you don't really understand, I have to kind of like let me give you a very simple example. Okay, yeah. Let's just say you are the kind of person that you can drive the car. You can drive the car. Okay, yeah. You are pretty much confident that you could drive the car. Okay, yeah. Now, basically, what exactly happened that you are kind of like driving a car and you can drive the car. Okay, but there is a problem with the car. There is a brake failure. Okay, yeah. Now, because of this person is kind of like so much confident regarding about that he could drive the car, he didn't really notice there is a kind of like a brake failure. In the end, that particular person crashed the car. What exactly happened? He was confident. Okay, yeah. So, do you say being a confident is not good? No, no, no. Being confident is also really good too. Let me give you the context. I didn't really tell the entire story, by the way. Okay, yeah. But I will gonna tell you later all the points will kind of like simply gather at one point. Okay, you just have to understand this first. Okay, yeah. Now, if I kind of like somebody the person who kind of like drive the car, he was pretty confident that he could drive the car. Okay, yeah. He didn't really realize there is a brake failure. Okay, yeah. So that's why he crashed the car. Now, there is a person who just don't really have that much confidence. He can drive the car. He knew all the kind of like a probably control, but he doesn't really have that much hand. Okay, yeah. So when he sit on that car and try to kind of like a push the start and kind of like a realize that he didn't really have brake, he just kind of like a try to stop that car as soon as possible as it can. Okay, yeah. He didn't really put that much pedal on the acceleration because he already knew that he was not able to drive the car far more longer. So he was kind of like a driving slow or driving kind of like a little less. And before that, he knew there is a kind of like a failure in brakes. So might be there is a kind of like a some certain way that he would kind of like a try to stop the car or maybe de-accelerate or kind of like a something like that, so that that car might not get crash. So what exactly is this thing? What we learn from that particular example? Sometimes confidence is not good, but sometimes worry is also not good too. Okay, it's let me tell you one thing. In the both the scenario, okay, yeah, there is no wrong in it. The person who is a confident to drive the car, he is not wrong, and the person who is really worried about he couldn't drive the car, he was also not wrong. Then what's the wrong in it? What exactly is this thing? The car? Yeah, definitely the car is actually wrong, right? Then what exactly is this question? What is exactly the question meaning? The question of meaning is actually says this thing that what if we could kind of like a self-doubt fuel the creativity. Now, how does kind of like a self-doubt will kind of like a fuel the creativity? How is exactly is this thing? Okay, yeah. Now, basically, creativity means I'm not mention that creativity means like that. Ki kind of like a something creative stuff like a doing a painting, singing, kind of like a somebody dancing or things or that or no. Creativity, first of all, let's just understand the creativity first, because most of people don't really understand the creativity. Okay, because most of people thinks that creativity means like that create something new, like a YouTube videos, song, kind of like a something that videos or movies or things like that. That is called kind of like a something creativity. Okay, yeah, because it creates new. But yeah, that is also called creativity. But creativity is not just kind of like only that thing. Creativity is kind of like a something involved in such a thing that kind of like a feels really common that you might not seen as a creativity. Let's just give the example. Okay, yeah, like basically is this thing ki you bought the printer. Okay, yeah, and you are kind of like a simply printing the pages. Okay, you have kind of like a PDF and you can printing the pages. Okay, yeah. Now, basically, what is actually happened that key you have a kind of like a PDF file for almost like a let's just say 10 pages. Okay, yeah. Now you print that pages. So basically, the 10 page is kind of like a print. Okay, yeah. Now you realize that there is a 10 pages and the other side of page is blank. So it's not really good. So what if I could kind of like a print on both side? So I print pages on both side. So it take 5 pages. Creativity. What? Is it creativity? Yeah, it's a creativity. Well, how is that supposed to be a creativity? It's just very common thing. Yeah, that's a common thing, dude. Okay, yeah. Like basically, creativity doesn't mean a kind of like a create new. A creativity means like that, a find a way to make our work more efficient or make our work kind of like a something very much valuable or kind of like a something little less um, time and effort and things like that, or kind of like a something way that kind of like a something makes it things do easily. That is called creativity. Okay, yeah, it's not about painting. It's yeah, the painting and things, these are also the creativity, but kind of like a something understanding that you can print the material on both the pages, and you know that and you did that thing. That is creativity, dude. It's as simple as that thing. So you have to understand that creativity is not just that thing. Creativity is a very simple thing too. Okay, yeah. Now you understand the creativity. Now let's talk about the self-doubt. Okay. Now self-doubt, it's somewhat something considered as a having not that much confident. That is true. Okay, yeah. When you not have that much confident, you don't really have a doubt. But when you have a self-doubt, that means you have a little less confidence. Okay, yeah. Now, basically, is this thing self-doubt and having little less confidence from societal point of perspective, it's considered as a not good. Okay, let's just say I am running a business. I'm very much doubtful regarding about every action that I do. Okay, yeah. So should you consider me as a kind of like a somebody very much successful chairman or things like that, or would you kind of like a believe me? I will be a kind of like a somebody a leader that I would kind of like a lead 100 people of team, and that would kind of like a lead the business to the kind of like a somebody right pace or things like that. Would do you will not gonna believe me? Why? Because of that I am always in self doubt. I didn't really have that much confidence, right? So basically, most of people are kind of like a somebody really wrong in that particular thing. Okay, yeah. Usually we are the people, like we are human, you are also humans too, and we are always admire such a people who are very much confident in their work. And that is true, by the way. Like the confident people are always kind of like somebody create such a aura that everyone loves it, and everyone wanted to kind of like a think that this is a kind of like a somebody really good person. A self doubt or kind of like a somebody the unconfident person, people don't really love it. Okay, yeah, but the self doubt and unconfident person is a person that is more right than confident person. How? What exactly is this thing? The same example, the first example that I told you, the person who can drive the car, he is pretty much confident. He didn't really check his brake and he just started driving the car. Okay, yeah. Sometimes confident person can do some sort of silly mistake that they shouldn't supposed to be do, or they kind of like solve that mistake. They might kind of like found that mistake, but they are pretty much confident in their work and things that, and they always make it, they are always sure that they can do that thing. So basically he didn't really notice there is a brake failure, so he just started accelerating very much, very rapidly, and that's why the car crash happened. But the self-doubt person, he always knew he can't drive the car that much. So he was kind of like a checking all the factor regarding about the brake is actually exist or not, the clutch are properly working or not, the indicators, the headlight, the horns are actually working or not. His main protocol is that he kind of like a drive the car and reach to the destination as safe as possible as it can. So that's why he would kind of like worry about all the possible things and stuff like that. Now, if I'm gonna say a doubtful and underconfident person is very good in that particular thing, then why does confident person are always win? Okay, and underconfident person are always lose. Why is that? Because in reality, we saw so many examples that confident person is always win and underconfident person always lose. Well, let me give you the context. Okay, yeah. Now you are creating a judgment so easily, so rapidly, and so quickly. Okay, what exactly is this thing? A confident person is somewhere at some time is underconfident. Okay, yeah. He is underconfident is because of that he make a mistake. Let me give you the context. Okay, let's just give a thing. Let's just say Virat Kohli. Virat Kohli is a best cricket man in the world. The way that he plays the cricket was like he's a star face and things like that. Okay, yeah. Now basically if this thing that when the Virat Kohli touches the ground and he was kind of like started doing the batting, we might believe that Virat Kohli might gonna hit 50 or 100 centuries. We might think that he might kind of like take half a century or maybe a century he will gonna do that thing. Why? Because we believe that what Virat Kohli can do and things and that and that. Okay, yeah. So basically, I am very much confident enough that Virat Kohli can kind of like simply hit the century. As well as Virat Kohli is also really confident that he could kind of like hit the century too. Okay, yeah. So basically, in this particular context, he's very much confident. But do you have same feeling almost like a 20-year ago? Like a 20-year ago, Virat Kohli was just kind of like a normal player. He was kind of like playing the cricket. Do you have the same faith for Virat Kohli that you are having right now? No, doesn't really at all. 20 years ago, I didn't really knew him. Okay, nothing really at all. 20, like let's just 10 years ago, I didn't really knew him that much. Okay, I just knew he was a guy who was kind of like playing the cricket and things like that. But I didn't really have that much faith in it. So why is that thing? Why is exactly this thing? The question actually says this thing that why does confident people always win and underconfident people are always lose is because of the confident people are you seeing right now, they are in the past are underconfident. Okay, yeah. And when they are kind of like underconfident, they make a lot of mistakes in every possible way. And when they mistakes and they learn from it, and try to prevent that mistake that won't let happen in next time. Okay, yeah. So basically is this thing, a confident person and underconfident person is not a two-state, is a ladder. Consider as a ladder. The person is underconfident, consider as a kind of like a little less confidence. And when that little less confidence getting more and more confidence because of kind of like a making mistake, understanding the system and try to make it better and things like that, he became more and more confident. And when he became more and more confident in itself, the people have started believing him that he is confident. Okay, yeah. So that's why the confident people are always win, because we actually seen them as a confident people. We didn't really seen them that Virat Kohli was underconfident, because at that time no one knows him, nothing really at all. Okay, yeah. Everyone kind of like a remember their their kind of like a somebody winning state. No one kind of like a remember their failures. Okay, yeah. So it is really essential to understand that a confident person and underconfident person is not a two-state. It's not a comparison. It's just a kind of like a ladder. Okay, yeah. When the person is underconfident, at some certain point, he will become confident. Okay, yeah. So when the person became confident, he will not gonna make that much many mistakes, and he will always gonna win. But the underconfident person, he's never been he was not became a confident person. He was kind of like a still facing those mistakes and things and that and that. Now, if I kind of like a seen that underconfident person, I might not believe that particular person. So that's why underconfident person always lose. Is not because of that ki they don't really have that credibility, is because of that ki they are not really ready, and they are kind of like simply doing it, learning it from this process. We are kind of like a judging that person so quickly, so early at his life. Let him do his mistake, let him learn from that. Okay, yeah. And when he kind of like a learn and things like that, he will become confident. Okay, yeah. Now, you understand this concept. Now, let me give you the context that key. What if self-doubt fuel the creativity? What exactly is this question? What exactly it means that? It means that key sometimes a self-doubt is kind of like only push ourselves little bit better. How? Is that when that particular person that can't drive the car, he can check the everything. Can he push the brake? Can he kind of like assembly the clutch is properly working or not? Indicator is actually working or not? Headlight is actually working or not? The seat belt is on or not? Like basically he check every possible way that he shouldn't supposed to be crash and things like that. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing that the person who is kind of like have a self-doubt, he always makes sure that he will gonna make sure that the work that he was kind of like doing as good as possible as it can. Yeah, in this particular process he will gonna make mistakes, but he learn from it. Okay, yeah. Now basically when that particular person makes a mistake, he would kind of like try to figure it out a way to solve that mistake. Okay, just give you example. I am the kind of like a chairman of the company, and I just started my company. Okay, let's just say I just started for almost like a maybe just couple of months ago I started my company. Okay, yeah. Now I have kind of like a couple of funding, okay, in my bank account and things like that. Okay, yeah. Now, basically, what I'm trying to tell you is this thing. I am the chairman, and in my team, there is almost like a 10 people is actually working in my team. My business is that I'm gonna kind of like a working on my application. Okay, yeah. Now, basically, is this thing when I try to make my application. Okay, yeah. I was kind of like try to make sure that the customer kind of like feels really kind of like good and things and that the way that I'm providing the services is kind of like only make sure that service is as good as possible as it can. But because of I have very lack of experience, because I just started and things like that, so I make a lot of mistakes. Like my application is actually crashed multiple times, my server doesn't really work properly and things and that. So I make a lot of mistakes. So I kind of like make sure that mistake doesn't really happen. I'm gonna make sure my application should supposed to be run smooth without bugs and things like that. I make sure that my server is kind of like a working very fine, so that it would kind of like a work really smooth as much as possible as it can. Obviously, there is a millions of error would gonna come regarding about every possible scenario, and I'm gonna fix that thing. Okay, even if I don't renew that, I would kind of like seek the help to figure it out the stuff and things like that. And when those are kind of like self-doubt, because of at the early stages I didn't really have that much confidence, I have kind of like so much self-doubt, I have very less people and things like that. I would consider myself that I have responsibility for almost like a 10 people in my thing. Those are 10 people are kind of like doing a job in my company, and possibly is this thing that I'm gonna make sure that my company is kind of like should supposed to be earn some sort of amount of money, so that I would feed that 10 people who is actually working in my company. Yeah, so basically I have a lot of responsibility. That means I am also little bit less confidence. I have little bit self-doubt too regarding about my work, regarding about my application, regarding about my business. I was kind of like making some from mistakes and things like that, and I'm trying to fix that mistake by kind of like assembly what kind of like assembly mistake that I'm doing, and I'm trying to fixing that mistake. Okay, yeah. So basically, what I'm trying to tell you, when I have the self doubt, I make a mistake, and when I make a mistake, I would kind of like slowly making sure a way that how do we supposed to solve that mistake by creative method. Okay, yeah. Now, what's exactly the creative method? What exactly is this thing? Let's just give the example. Okay, I am a kind of like a running a business. There is a kind of like a some mistake is actually happened regarding about the checkout. Let's just say I build an application regarding about e-commerce website. Okay, yeah. Now in the e-commerce website, I usually kind of like a somebody sell some sort of kind of like a somebody product. Now basically I have a product. Okay, yeah. But the problem is that when the customer kind of like a somebody click the checkout, the product doesn't really dispatch. And so there is a problem. I realized that there is a kind of like a server delay is actually happened. That server, the customer is kind of like a checkout, but the server is kind of like a delay the product. The server is kind of like not telling me that this customer kind of like a order this product so that I would dispatch my kind of like a product. I would ship my product to his location. Okay, yeah. The server is kind of like something really wrong in this thing. So I was kind of like making sure that what's exactly problem with the server. Okay, yeah. Why the kind of like a server is not telling me that customer actually order this product and things like that. So when this thing happened, I kind of like fixed that thing. Okay, yeah. The customer might not satisfied with my services because he actually get the product very late. But probably is this thing because of there is a one failure. I try to fix that failure. That failure will not gonna happen again. Right? So this is all those things, dude. Okay, yeah. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that self-doubt, it's somewhat something kind of like a something way to kind of like solve the problem as creative as possible as it can. Like why am I saying creative? A creative means like that ki kind of like a somebody. Okay, just I will gonna give the example. Okay, yeah. Do you know Thomas Edison? I already gave this example multiple times, but his example is always really undermining. Is like a really crazy. Okay, yeah. Let me give you the context. The Thomas Edison is kind of like somebody try to create the electric bulb. Okay, yeah. Now the electric bulb is actually work on, there is a filament. Okay, there is a kind of like a particular filament is actually kind of like somebody connecting with a kind of like a positive and negative. Okay, yeah. Terminal. They as a there is a one job that kind of like a something Thomas Edison kind of like a looking for. He was kind of like a try to find such a filament that could emit the light when the electricity passed through. And he kind of like a try multiples of metal combination. He try iron, copper and things and that and stuff and something like that. He try almost like a thousands of ways to kind of like a simply the bulb doesn't really make. And he and in the end he found there is only tungsten filament which can emit the light when the electricity pass through. So when these things actually happen, Thomas Edison understand that okay, this is a kind of like a somebody tungsten would be kind of like a somebody revolutionary idea to create the bulb and things like that. And right now we could see the bulb. We could see the LEDs and we could see all those things. By the way, LEDs are kind of like a new version of bulb. Okay, yeah, but yeah, we could light up the entire world and things like that. What I'm trying to tell you is this thing. What if the Thomas Edison is kind of like a somebody try to figure it? He was kind of like somebody doubt. Like at the beginning, he was kind of like a really doubt that his bulb is kind of like a somebody work or not or things or that and that. Okay, yeah. He was kind of like somebody kind of like didn't really sure regarding about the bulb is actually working. So that's why he was kind of like trying almost like a thousands of samples of filaments of tungsten filament. That's why he was kind of like trying to doing these thousands of samples of filament that which would kind of like work or things like that. He was kind of like really doubtful regarding about his bulb. When he was kind of like really doubtful, he was kind of like try to figure it out a creative way that kind of like emits the light as well as kind of like a transfer of electricity and things like that. And after the kind of like thousands of attempt, he found tungsten filament. Now basically thousands of attempt is kind of like a feel really normal to you. It just say 1,000, but start counting from 1 to 1,000. Probably it will take you almost like an hour to kind of like a complete counting. I'm not really sure hour, but probably it will take kind of like so much amount of time to count from 1 to 1,000. Okay, yeah, and you are just counting. You are not kind of like trying multiple filaments. Thomas Edison tried multiple filaments thousands times. So understand how much time he kind of like somebody faced the failure. So what I'm trying to tell you is this thing that sometimes undoubtful or kind of like having little less confidence in our work or things like that, it kind of like somebody fuels creativity inside of you. It try to kind of like somebody make sure that how do you supposed to solve the problems and things and that and that. And when you do that thing, you actually solve the problem. Let me tell you one thing. Confidence and underconfidence, those are not two states. Underconfidence is a little less version of confidence. Okay, yeah, you just have to just go through it and just pass through it, solve the problem and things like that, and then you become confident. It doesn't mean that confidence people doesn't really make mistakes, and it doesn't mean that underconfidence people cannot win. Okay, yeah, we are living in the life where kind of like a problem are always causing something that we don't even know. Okay, and we are always trying to figure it out, how do we should supposed to solve the problems and things like that. That's why we are human, and that's why we learn from it. All right, this is it. This is what kind of like self-doubt fuel the creativity. All right, everything's good, great. I should supposed to be end here. Thank you.